wanted to, I hear what you're saying. I also, want to be optimistic, remain positive. I think what's concerning about the language that's written right now in the plan is that there's no statements as to who's looking at it, right? So I feel like right now, who's looking at it and what frequency? Like right now, I think we have increased vulnerability in our community and throughout the state, with the staff shortages. So I feel like our starting point is in a little bit more vulnerable position, and without a close eye on trends, changes, that we're putting ourselves at risk. And the whole goal of having this plan is to keep kids in school. Like, that is the overarching objective of what we're trying to do, even without a plan. I think we have a lot of lessons learned and like good data to support that we all benefit with our kids being, in the actual building as opposed to a virtual model, when that's the choice that they have. So I want to, one of my goals overall with bringing this forward is to acknowledge those vulnerabilities and how are we monitoring that change or those upticks to see, okay, like, we're not in high, from the current CDC, monitoring system, right? The 3-tier system, as we're creeping up in case counts, because again, we should reasonably anticipate that could occur. So what's that threshold for, whoa, things are not looking good, or who's looking at it to say, things aren't looking good, we need to start keeping a closer eye on it, because the language that's written right now is DASD will reevaluate, guidelines as needed in consultation with these medical organizations. But it's very generic language that, again, what does that really look like? If we don't add more specific language, what does that really look like?
I think that the more specific we get, the more we tie our hands. And I think that if we leave it more open, then we can be open to the way that things change. That's just the way I look at it. And I do believe that we are keeping an eye on numbers. Our nurses know how many students are out with COVID if they, tell the nurse that. So I think we are keeping our eyes on it. And I think I wouldn't know what that threshold would be, what that number would be. And I would have to feel like I would want to consult all over again. So that's my feeling on that.
I mean, there's no doubt our nurses are on the street with our students, as are our teachers and principals. So, we monitor attendance in a non-COVID experience as well. I mean, there's been times where we've had to communicate with families regarding flu or stomach bugs happening where a good part of a classroom's out. So I do think we're in a similar scenario with communications. If we see something going awry, just like we would if we unfortunately experienced something with food poisoning in a school, we have to consult with the Department of Health. And so that relationship is important. As far as the ongoing nature of it, I'll be in meetings with representatives from the county health department. Obviously, if we're seeing something, we reach out to them and ask them for advice if there's something we're not sure what's going on. But I think we're living this with our students, and that's where we'll keep an eye. I don't know what else to say in regard to the threshold of monitoring this, because many times we won't even know a student what they're out with, but I do think conversations with most parents are pretty open with talking to the school nurse. We want them to feel trust in our nurses to call and ask them for advice. We want our nurses to be consultants for families, whether it's COVID or whether it's the flu or lice. So